Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. Very happy to welcome you to this masterclass about cloud and data security. I'm Pauline Monté. I'm in charge of communicating about our product and its features and how to use them. Today I'm with Julien Leproust. He's head of infrastructure and security at OpenDataSoft. With Julien, we will delve into the topics of cloud infrastructure and personal data protection, and we'll learn how OpenDataSoft ensure customers' data and data portals security. Right before I give Julien the virtual floor, just let me explain very quickly how this webinar will go. We will have 30 minutes of presentation, and then 5 or 10 minutes for the questions at the end. You can ask questions using the control panel on your right. Simply go to the question tab and type your questions at any time during the session. We will answer them at the end. Tomorrow you will receive an email with the link to the recording and the slides. So that's it. I'm finished with the introduction. Julien, the virtual floor is yours.
Thanks, Pauline, and hello everyone, and welcome. I'm Julien Leproust. I'm head of infrastructure and security at OpenDataSoft. I joined the company in 2016. So here's my small biography and my email address if you want to contact me later. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you may have after the presentation. So first, I'm going to explain how OpenDataSoft application is built and served on the cloud, and what the cloud means for us. Then I'll start to explain how we ensure the security of our application in the cloud, and how our application helps you manage the security of your own data. And finally, we'll talk about our personal data and compliance. So first, OpenDataSoft, so ODS, is built on the cloud, on clouds, because it includes a lot of meanings of cloud. It includes IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, etc. So what does this mean? OpenDataSoft is sold as a software as a service. So that means it is both a software license for a software we edit and publish ourselves, and all the hosting related to this application. So it's obviously a monthly or annual cost, a subscription, which includes all hosting costs. It includes maintenance, support. It also includes new enhancements, new features, all software application evolutions, new versions, etc. It includes everything. So it's important to compare the cost of the software as a service to our license, including all other hidden costs that are usually not included with the licensing of on-premise software. So this is what the cloud means for our product, and we also use the cloud to build our own application because it's a software application hosted on the cloud, in particular AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Outscale, which is a similar provider of infrastructure as a service as AWS in France. So we mainly use infrastructure as a service, that is mainly virtual machines running Linux mostly, and platform as a service. This is higher level services managed, for example, database as a service. We also use this. The application itself is built on a lot of open source components, including mostly Linux as an operating system, and Python as a language, and lots of automation. Now that you know how we built and serve our application, how do we secure all of this? So cloud security. We use basic methods to identify security measures to implement. First, we need to assess risks, that is threats, attacks, and their probabilities. The combination of a threat and the probability defines the risk level. So a critical threat, which is highly improbable because it can be very complicated to execute, can be a moderate risk. But a simple attack that is a little threat, but that is very easy to execute, so is highly probable, can be a moderate risk too. So this helps give a level to all the risk, so we can begin to take measures to mitigate the most risky threats with appropriate measures. Then we can use economy principles to define security measures. The idea is to make attacks more difficult to raise their cost, and if they are too expensive to launch, they will become unprofitable compared to the potential gain. This is how we make attacks unprobable. So this helps us define technical measures to mitigate technical risks, and also many organizational measures against human risks. In all the security chains, there are always humans everywhere in the chain, and the whole security chain is only as secure as its weakest link, and it must not be the human. That's why we run security awareness campaigns for all employees, so that everything is aware of all the risks, so that we can find the right balance between security measures and the risks, so that everything is as secure as it needs. At ODS, we're mostly concerned with the three sides of security. The first one is the availability. Obviously, as we run an application as a software as a service, it has to be available. If it's not available, it does not work at all. So it's a vulnerability. That's why we deploy high availability measures. We guarantee an availability of 99.9% 24/7. And that is also provided through transparent scalability, because as we provide the software as a service, we can mutualize and share infrastructure costs between many customers, so that we have a large provisioned capacity that is also shared between customers, so every customer can access, in case of need, this large capacity for a fraction of the total price. That's how we are resilient to large traffic surges. For example, nowadays with COVID-19, a lot of our customers are publishing data sets about cases, and some of them are really popular and are linked from newspaper articles, etc. So we get a lot more traffic than usual, and that's how we still manage to keep every portal available. We also have the possibility to scale out with very little downtime, because we have a scalable architecture. And obviously, this is only possible because of the software as a service architecture, where a small customer can share a large infrastructure with many other customers, so can access a large capacity, whereas an on-premise instance would need to pay for the provision capacity every time, all the time, compared to sharing with many customers. So the second side of security is privacy. We have a lot of data that must not be shared with everyone. So this comes with GDPR compliance. We are a French company, so in Europe, so we are subject to GDPR. So this means implementing principles such as privacy by design and privacy by default. I'll talk of them more in detail in the last part. And this also means implementing encryption. And then the last side is integrity. we have data and we have a service that must not just disappear or die or change without our out of our control. That's why we implement our solution using multiple data centers, redundancy, and backups. That way we have plans to recover and resist disasters and data loss. So in order to implement all of this, we need a stable and secure infrastructure base. And that's why we only use infrastructure providers that are certified with the ISO 27001 standard. This is a standard in information security that is published by the ISO. So it's a really large list of controls that need to be implemented and certified by a provider. And that encompasses everything from physical access to the data centers management, incident management, authorization, personnel security awareness, etc. Hardware management, a lot of things that makes a really stable and secure base to implement a secure application on top. So this is a minimum that we ask from our providers. This is also a certification that we could get for ourselves, but we have not yet for the moment because we are still a small company, and this is a really huge and expensive process that takes a long time. So we've not started it yet, but we will probably do it one day. Then security also requires quality processes in the software development. So at ODS, every software evolution follows a strict process. First, every software evolution is subject to multiple code reviews by software engineers. And then we have batteries of automated tests that run automatically for each change. And if all these tests pass, then we continue to the next step. That is a continuous integration. We run automatic testing in a live environment to verify that all the components still work well together after each change. Then, if everything is still okay, we run a deployment in a pre-production environment where a human can check that every feature still works as expected. And then, if everything is green, we can finally push the button of the automated production. We can automatically push all the changes in production. And just in case there is still a problem that wasn't detected before, we can roll back all the changes to the previous version, and all of this happens in a matter of minutes because it's fully automated. And this allows us to publish new changes every week. And so not all changes are very important or visible, but every week we publish at least several bug fixes, for example. So this is another advantage of software as a service. You don't have anything to do to upgrade to new versions and fix bugs. Then we have the topic of encryption. Encryption ensures privacy for both data in transit and data at rest. So for data in transit, we use mostly HTTPS for all connections to our applications. That means first, the connection between your browser and the application. We use only the latest version of SSL, that is TLS version 1.2. We run all the HTTPS configuration necessary to get the best grade on Qualys SSL Labs, that is A+. That is really the best standard at the moment to ensure that all our encryption is state of the art and cannot be broken using known techniques today. We use Let's Encrypt certificates for all our customers for free since 2016. This is great because TLS certificates used to be a cumbersome process of getting a certificate for a provider, paying for it, getting a private key, transferring your private key in a secure manner, and the certificate, and renewing it every year. So now it's completely automated, and it's free, and it's secure, and it's great. But we still manage custom certificates and DNS aliases for our customers if they want. For example, if they need a special special policies or standards that cannot be met by Let's Encrypt. So for data at rest, all our customer data is encrypted at the storage level on all our providers with AES 2256. That is the best standard today. Then at the application level, to be secure, we need not only perimeter defense but also in-depth defense, because we always find security holes everywhere in all the levels of all the stacks. So we need to resist attacks and to mitigate attacks and vulnerabilities. The best thing to do is to implement protections at all levels, so that even if a vulnerability is exploited by an attacker, he still won't get access to too much or even anything, because there are other protection levels inside. That means, for example, that we have isolated networks between production and dev on the pre-prod, so that customer data never leaves the production networks. We have OS level isolation between processes, users, databases, etc., so that even compromising special exposed process does not lead to further exploitation. We have logical separation between customers, so that even a bug cannot let a customer or a user access data from another customer or user. We even specifically physically isolate a customer according to trust. According to trust. For example, all our paying customers are on dedicated clusters, whereas all our test or demo customers are on other clusters. We also have passwords and secret keys for all internal services, so that even if an attacker manages to get access to an internal server or machine, it still does not allow access to data, because it's against protected by passwords. We also have at the same level, at the infrastructure level, strict firewalling between the virtual machines, so that even if a machine is compromised, it does not allow access to others. Every admin access needs to go only through dedicated hardened hosts, and everything is monitored, so that admin interfaces are just not enabled in standard internet accessible hosts. And all communications over public networks are encrypted and authenticated at least once. So this helps us being really good against attacks. But it's not enough. We cannot just believe that we are as secure as we say. We have to test it with the eyes of experts. So that's why we run a bug bounty program. So for now, it's a private program for 6 months. The advantage compared to annual security audits is that the tests is that the application is always currently being tested by many people, whereas security audits means that it's only audited by 1 people or 2 maybe. And there's also much less delay between the feature releases in production, the testing, and the fixes. And even better, we have the ability to test feature before general release by allowing security researchers to test the security feature on pre-production instances. So this provides us with a good base, with a good and secure application base. So now in our application, we can provide you with features to help you secure your data as you want. So first, we provide applications on portals that are often used for open data, but that does not mean that we cannot handle private data too. Actually, every open data source portal can host both public and private data at the same time, and you can manage it first at the portal level. You can have an open portal where data can be available by anyone without authentication, or you can completely close your portal and just provide to the public a login form, and then give access to anything only to authenticated users. Speaking of users, we have a lot of features to manage users. So first, permissions. We can define roles using a large set of permissions. So first, you obviously have admin rights. You can have as many admin users as you want that can manage the permissions of other users. You can have users that have dataset edition rights that can create new datasets and edit them and publish them. You can have users with content edition rights that can write content on the pages, on the portal, and etc. You can have users with analytics access to analyze the traffic on the data access and etc. Or you can have users with no specific rights at all that are just able to access the portal if it's closed. Here is an example of a user group where users belonging to a defined group can automatically have specific permissions. Then you can manage security at the data level. You can filter data on every data set can be made accessible to specific users or specific groups only. So you can really manage the governance of your data in a really fine manner, and you can even filter data at the column or row level. So that, as an example, imagine you're implementing the CRM of a company. So it's obviously on a closed portal. All employees in the company have a user account, and you can manage them with the groups according to their teams. And then you can make the whole customer data sets available as a whole only to the top management. You can have each customer data available to its relevant sales team by a geography, for example, with filtering on a column, by filtering rows on a specific field. And you can also hide some columns from everything, just to publish, for example, the whole list of customers to everything in the company, except sensitive fields, for example. So this really enables our customers to publish data exactly, the data they want to everyone they want. And then we can also restrict data creation and access. So that you can, for example, check that if you want to implement a data product, for example, you want to sell access to data to your own customers using data that is published on an ODS portal. You can restrict access to data by quantity. So you can define a quota for anonymous users. Let's say you have a really large data set of valuable data. You can make available to everyone on your portal a little sample so that everyone can see what they could have access to, and they can access it with the limit of say 100 accesses per day. and then if they pay, they get a subscription. They pay you, they get an account, and then they can access more data, more data volume, or more often the data. You can define data access and API calls on data volume quotas per user and per groups and for anonymous users. This really enables to make powerful data products. And then you can also manage user account security using an external directory through SAML 2.0. It's a protocol that is specifically designed to connect to external user accounts. So, for example, to connect an active to connect an ID from MS, you can just configure it yourself, and all your users from your company can connect to your ODS portal through a single sign-on. And then obviously you can also apply your own authentication policies to the accounts, because all the authentication happens on your internal company's servers and not on ours. Then all of the security features are best used with traceability. All ODS portals have built-in monitoring capabilities. There are built-in data sets that provide access to all login attempts, so that you can check every user login on your portal. You can also check for unauthorized unauthorized attempts and take mitigation actions. We also log all configuration changes on your portal, so that you can know who made the change and when and why. And we also monitor all data access, even from anonymous users, so that you can know who accessed what and when, and we can make a dashboard showing the popularity of data sets and users, etc. So, for example, we here on the dashboard, you see a map. We can show a map of data access based on IP addresses. We can map them easily to countries and cities. So this makes a powerful analytics platform too. This brings us to the topic of personal data management, because even open data portals process personal data. Actually, every website on the internet receives connections from people using IP addresses. Every website sees the IP addresses of its users, and that is considered as personal data. So even open data portals are actually personal data processors. So with regards to GDPR, so the every one of our customers is by default a personal data processor, and OpenDataSoft is a sub-processor. So to enable to be compliant and to enable our customers to be compliant with GDPR, we implement all GDPR principles, including privacy by design by default. Privacy by design is a principle that says that privacy and that personal data collection must be taken into account at every step of an application, from the initial ID to the application in the end. And privacy by default means that the default configuration of an application must not collect data without consent. So that is the case for OpenDataSoft applications. That also means implementing a lot of security policies, including publishing a privacy policy. We have one on all our portals, and our customers must have one too for their portals. That also means assessing the impact on privacy. It's a document that is mandatory in the GDPR that analyzes all the risks to privacy, considering the application, all the collected data and the goals. This also means contracting data processing agreements between data controllers and data processors. Our customers are personal data controllers, and we are personal data sub-processors. the best is to sign a data processing agreement that defines exactly who is responsible for what in the processing of personal data. And for all of these questions, you have to nominate a data protection officer that is responsible for all the aspects of personal data processing. So he is the person to contact in case of data access for all matters of personal data. For us, we delegated this function to our lawyers, and we can also help our customers with this. About security policies, at ODS we have implemented a lot of security policies, including the basis, a security assurance policy that is available on demand, and which details all the security measures we have put in place, both technical and organizational measures. We have a privacy policy that is public, obviously, with the terms of service and the terms of use. And we have a lot of private internal security policies. For example, the authorization policy, the security incident management policy, data retention policy, charters for users and admins of IT services, business continuity and disaster recovery policy. That's a lot of paper. But it's really important to know exactly what to do in every case and ensure the security and the safety of personal data at the organizational level. And then obviously, because it's not easy at all, we help our customers be compliant with GDPR. For example, we provide templates of terms of use and privacy policies that are mandatory documents to publish on the portal. So you just have, if you use our portal to publish open the data, you just use the standard features of our platform. So then our standard terms of use and privacy policy just apply. You just have to fill in the blanks, identify the editor of the portal, and that's all. We can also provide a standard data processing agreement that specifies exactly what we provide regarding the personal data processing, and privacy impact assessment extract, so that you can easily fill your own one. Then personal data processing needs to handle personal data processing. We need to know where the data is located in the world, because GDPR makes it mandatory to let people know where their data is located. So Open Data Service is implemented using several providers all over the world and several data centers in each region. For example, we use Outscale to serve from France in Paris, which Outscale provides us with 2 data centers independent to implement redundancy, and AWS provides us with data centers in Ireland, in Germany, in the Americas, in USA and Canada, and we also use an AWS region in Australia, because we have several customers in the Asia and Pacific region, and there the connection, the internet connectivity to the rest of the world is quite slow. So it's a real benefit to have a software instance close to you. So when you choose an Open Data Portal, you choose which region to host it in. And once the region is chosen, we can guarantee you that your data never leaves this region. This is achieved through redundancy, through several data centers in each region, and even the backups stay in the region. So all these security procedures have allowed us to get from the French Personal Data Protection Authority, the CNIL, Gouvernance RGPD label, which proves that we implemented all the necessary controls to comply with GDPR. So we made all the work to get this label as soon as GDPR entered law 2 years ago, nearly exactly 2 years ago, actually. And we also publish our own security self-assessment using the standard questionnaire CAIQ from the Cloud Security Alliance. I don't know if you know about the CSA. It's an association of cloud actors that is promoting the best practice in security, and that is publishing a security evaluation framework that everyone can use to assess the security levels of any member of the alliance. So it's really easy for our customers to know if we are compliant enough with their with the security levels they want. So it's published on the internet. You can look for our assessment on the CSA site. So finally, this brings us to the end of this presentation. I show you some links to useful resources if you have more questions after. So first, we have a help hub at the address help.opendatasoft.com, where you can find our user guide, our widgets and APIs, reference doc, etc. And you can also contact our support by email at supports@opendatasoft.com. And that concludes my presentation. So thanks for listening. I'll have a look at the questions. And yes, there is a question. Why is there no cookie warning when a portal is accessed? Actually, the cookie banner exists. It's not always enabled on all the portals. And we have actually postponed cookie banner evolutions until the French Data Protection Authority publishes its advice on it, because it's still not very clear according to the GDPR how it must be implemented. So it will soon be implemented exactly according to the law, but it's not yet out. And anyway, it's always configurable on each portal. Well, thank you too. And then I'll give back the virtual floor to Pauline for the end. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julien. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. If we have no further question, I think we can end the masterclass now. We will have more masterclasses and workshops very soon. Don't hesitate to check your inbox to see the emails you might receive. We'll soon send invitations for workshops, masterclasses. There will be a workshop about KPI dashboards, so that might interest you. Thanks again, and we'll have a nice day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I think we can end now the webinar. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.